Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turned out a poem 787, Such is the Force of Happiness. Can we just point out how amazing it is that Emily Dickinson will use the word happiness 3 and only 3 times in all of her 1,775 poems. Now, she'll mention misery in 12 of her poems, but in many ways we are kind of back to poem 244. You guys will maybe remember this one when we did it. It's easy to work when the soul is at play, but when the soul is in pain, the hearing him put his playthings up makes work difficult. Then it is simple to ache in the bone or the rind, but gimlets along the nerves, mangle dainty or terrible, or like a panther in the glove. The idea of this poem is, again, the difference between what it's like when you're happy versus what it's like when you're sad. Now, our assumption is that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments, as well as the preceding 786 poems. We just finished with 786, Severe Service of Myself. This is Emily as the great poet of psychology, of the mind. And of course, we love to take poems like this and then set them up against Freud, for example, or Carl Jung, and to be analytical in our assessment of psychologically, what is it like to be happy versus what is it like to be sad? Let's read. Such is the force of happiness, the least can lift a ton assisted by its stimulus. Who misery sustain, no sinew can afford the cargo of themselves, too infinite for consciousness's slow capabilities. Now, we have a saying in Room 303 that Scooby snacks are an illusion. And it's often been asked, why are Scooby snacks an illusion? And this poem will say why. Because if you'll think about it, no matter how great a Scooby snack is, either literally or metaphorically, it can't last. It can't last. It has to go away. And in the knowledge that you are happy, but that happiness must subside, it cannot remain forever, is the recognition of the moment of maybe the greatest pain, the greatest suffering. We are, of course, saddest when we are happiest. You'll remember, of course, in our study of To a Skylark, Shelley's classic, we've given full lectures at learnstrong.net, that that's fundamentally his argument. What is it? We look before and after and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is from. Our saddest songs tell of saddest love. She'll begin with such. Hear all the S sounds, by the way, in this poem. Such is the force, notice capitalized, of happiness. Happiness we will see again in 1449. We're going to see it in 1601. When we get to that poem, we will come back to this poem to enjoy one other time that she uses the word happiness. Of God we ask one favor, that we may be forgiven for what he is presumed to know. The crime from us is hidden. Immured the whole of life within a magic prison, we reprimand the happiness that too competes with heaven. She says, let me tell you about the force of happiness, the power of being in a good mood. She says, all it takes is a little happiness, and it can lift a ton assisted by its stimulus. You'll remember stimulus from 770. We'll see it again in 1001 and in 1048 and 1196. In other words, if you want to do something great, you only need a little bit of happiness to be able to figure that out, to be able to do it well. Now, all my athletes know exactly what I'm talking about here. Why is it that oftentimes when people lift, they like to listen to the music that, what are we going to say, this excites them, jacks them up? Why? Because we understand something psychologically. It doesn't take much, if we're happy, to do some amazing stuff, right? Amazing stuff. Once you're feeling in a good place, once you're happy. But what about misery? Well, it's the inverse, right? It doesn't take but a drop of misery or sadness to, well, make it impossible to lift anything. Notice how she says it. Misery, by the way, in 12 poems. It's who misery sustain, that is, if you're not happy. No sinew can afford the cargo of themselves. In other words, you can't lift yourself if you're unhappy. Too infinite for consciousness' sake. You'll remember consciousnesses when we did 786. No drug for consciousness can be alternative to die, is nature's only pharmacy for being's malady. She says, misery slows everything down. It makes all of our capabilities slow. Well, I think the point here at 2a is obvious, that suffering makes life hard to live, as opposed to happiness, which makes life easy. It's, what does she say in 244? It's easy to work when the soul is at play. At 2b, all the S sounds of this poem, I think, are significant. At 3a, well, clearly our Dante is standing behind this. Dante, that great Italian poet who will take his journey through hell to get to Purgatorio, to finally get to Paradiso. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. What is it that Dante argues there? Not that you go to hell, but rather you go through hell. Life is about finding heaven by going through the experience of hell. And what is that hell? Well, she calls it misery. In other words, it's the loss of your Scooby snack. Why? Because Scooby snacks are an illusion. They cannot last forever. Inevitably, you got to have the moments. What are we going to call them? The valleys? The sadness? Think about the power of your study of the Odyssey this way. I mean, what defines Odysseus? Well, it's the journey home. We, in fact, reinvent the name Odysseus to mean Odyssey, to mean journey. Well, it isn't the destination. It isn't Ithaca in the end. What it is it's the journey that takes Odysseus through all of those, what are you going to call them? Trials and tribulations. Emily, of course, knew her Pilgrim's Progress, that classic text of, you want to talk about your life, talk about all the pain of your life. Why? Because the only joy you've ever had in your life is when you overcame pain. It's the only time. It's the only time. There is no joy in your life without, first of all, there being some kind of pain and suffering. Of course, we know that from our study of Plato, don't we? Right? That is to say, for my son Mikey to learn how to ride his bike, he first had to learn how to fall on his bike, especially once we took those training wheels off, right? That's the way it works. The only way you'll learn to ride a bike is by falling, and it's going to have to hurt. It must hurt so that you can appreciate when it doesn't hurt. Every athlete knows exactly what we're talking about here. Think about Milton's Theodicy in Paradise Lost. The quest is what? To justify the ways of God to men, he will say in those opening lines. We've given full lectures, of course, on Dante and Milton, as well as Pilgrim's Progress at learnstrong.net. Finally, to own a poem like this, when was a time when you struggled to lift yourself? And you could do it when you were happy. But man, misery just kept it from happening at all. Thank you.